Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sadaf Iqbal. Welcome to Programming Fundamentals and Introduction to Computer Programming. Today we will discuss functions in C. In previous lecture, we have seen the user-defined functions. There are four types of user-defined functions that are no arguments passed and no return value, no argument passed and a return value, argument passed but no return value, argument passed and a return value. We have discussed the first category, that is no argument passed and no return value. In today's lecture, we will see the other three categories of the user-defined functions. So we will see all three categories with examples. So user-defined functions. The first category is no argument passed and no return value. That was discussed in the previous lecture. Coming towards the next three categories, that is function with no argument passed but a return value. Let us see this type of. So this is actually the summary. We will come back to it. Let us just overlook it. We have these four categories, and when we call the function call, you can see by this line you can actually know that either the function has some arguments or any return value. So this is your syntax: return type. You write the return type, then function name, and then the arguments. So we will see if this is void function and the brackets are empty, that means the return type is void, it is not returning any value, and the brackets are empty. Inside brackets there is nothing else, so that means there is no argument passed. So arguments no, return value no. The second one, we have integer data type, return type. That means a function is returning a value which is integer type. So we have, yes, the return value is yes, but still the brackets are empty, so we don't have any argument. So the argument is no. In the third category, we see void function integer. That means there is a data type, there is an argument of data type integer, but the function is not returning any value. And in the fourth one, you can see integer and integer. That means we have an argument and we have a return type. So let us see in these four categories of user-defined functions in more detail. Okay, the second category, that is no arguments passed but a return value. There could be occasions where we may need to design functions that may not take any arguments but return value to the calling function. So the syntax is, in function declaration, you write the return type, the name of the function, and obviously if there are no arguments, so we have 0 parameters inside the bracket, right? So function call, in function call, you call the function as it is, but you will not pass any arguments inside the brackets because we don't have any argument, no arguments passed, right? In function definition, similarly with the function declaration, and there's nothing, no parameters, and yes, the return type is mentioned. Okay, let us see few examples. I have tried to make the examples similar for all the categories so that you can see that for the same output you can use four categories of these user type function. So in the previous we have discussed three examples. We will continue those three examples for the next categories as well. So here we are adding two numbers. This is the program also. So this is actually multiplying two numbers. Sorry for the heading. Okay, this is multiplying two numbers, multiplication. Okay, what is happening in this function? We have a return type which is integer, and we have empty brackets, that is we are not passing any value when we will call the function, that is no arguments. So coming towards the main function, which is this integer multi, we have declared a variable multi in which we are storing, of course, the function is returning a value, and whenever the function is returning a value, they have to store it in some variable. So multi is the variable that is storing the result that is coming out from the function. So multiplication is the function called. We are not passing any kind of argument. We are just writing the name of the function and brackets, and that is it. Okay. The control will go to the function definition where the function is defined. It will come back over here, and here the multiplication function is defined. And what is we are doing? Inside the function, we are writing the variables and we multiplying those variables and we are sending the result back. Return multi. So this multi is returned back to the function where it is called and stored in this multi variable. Now if you want to print it, you will get the result. Multiplication of A and B is multi, right? So you can see the control passing, no arguments, returning value. That is how the control flow is going on. Okay, let us see, let us run this program. This is the same program. Okay, let us run this program. So multiplication of A and B is 800. You can modify it as you want it. If you want to want the user to enter the numbers, you can do it as well and multiply it and then send back the result where the function is called. So you can see here we have integer type, that is return value, but the brackets are closed, so there is no argument. So this is the second type, which is no arguments passed and uh, but return a value, right? Okay, let us see the second example. Take two numbers as input from user and display which is the greater number. Okay, this is the second example. Second example is check whether the integer entered by the user is a prime number or not. If you remember the same example, we did it for the first category, which was no argument passed and no return value, right? This is the first category. We did the same example for the second category, that is no argument passed and a return value. So this is the program. Now what we have done, because we have a return value, so we will write integer as it is returning in integer value. This is the function declaration. This is the name of the function and zero arguments, zero parameter list, right? The main function is over here. Here we have ni flag is 0. No argument is passed. Here we are calling the function get integer, right? And let us go to the function where it is called, where it is defined. Here we have the function get integer. Here function is defined and function is doing just printing printing f, that is enter a positive integer, then it will take the positive integer and return the value to the get integer. After this value is returned, here inside the main function we have defined the main program, that is prime number, if the number is prime number or not. You can do it in other way as well. If you want all this program to be executed in the definition, then you can make another function and you can copy these codes to that function. Okay, what is happening over here? We are calling a function, and in call function we are just asking the user to enter a positive integer, right? Get integer, because function name you can see it is get integer. That's it. It is just getting the integer and returning that integer to your main function here, and then you are finding it either your number is prime number or not. So This is the explanation. The empty parenthesis in the end. I think I have discussed all these. Let us see in the code block what is happening. Let us see. Okay, this is the function definition. Let us run this program. Okay, enter a positive integer. Now, if you remember, this message is inside the function. This is what actually the function is doing. It is asking you for the integer value. So suppose I'm entering 7. So 7 is a prime number, right? You can see we have a return value, that is n. Function is returning a value, but we are not passing any argument. So no argument passed, and it is returning a value. Okay, let us see another example. Okay, what this function is doing? It is actually take two numbers as input from user and display which is the greater number. So this is the main program. This is function declaration, that is a great number. Int means it is returning a value. Brackets are empty. That means no arguments. So in main function we have result. We are storing the return value from the function in result, and we are calling the function great number. The control will go to the function definition. Here the function is defined, and I, j, great number, we have three variables. Inside the function, it is asking for entering two numbers to compare, and then it is making the logic. If I is greater than j, it will print the greater number is I, as the greater number is j. It's so simple. And it will return the greater number to back to where the function is called, and here we are printing the result. So let us run this program in code block. This is the same program. Okay, let me close this first. So enter two numbers that you want to compare, for example 4 and 5. So the greater number is 5. Okay, so I think that this category, this type of function is clear now. That is no argument but a return value. Coming towards the third type, that is argument passed but no return value. From the name, we can also understand that their arguments, the brackets are not empty now, but the return, there is no return value, so we'll write void. When a function has argument, it receives any data from the calling function, but it returns no value. So the syntax is void because it is not returning any value. And yes, we have some arguments and parameters inside the brackets. Function call, when we will call a function, we will pass some arguments, and function definition, we will have arguments, and yes, we have void over here. Okay, let's see the examples, the same examples. In addition, now you can see we have void. Addition is the name of the function, and yes, we have arguments because this is no return type, but arguments are passed, right? So coming towards the main function, we have integer a and b. What we are doing, we are saying that please enter two integers, a and b. I want to add it. We are calling this addition function. We are passing the values, but you can see the result is not being saved in some other variable because the function is not returning any value. So you are just calling it and passing the values. That's it. So here inside the function, we have integer sum. Sum is a plus b because this a is passed to this parameter and this b is passed to this parameter. So over here we have a, the value of a, and here we have value of b, and user. It is adding those values sum, and it is printing that value inside the same function. So it is not returning any value, right? It is not returning any value. It is just printing the value, the result inside it. So let us see. this example in code block. This is the same example. Please enter two integers, for example, 4 and 3 and 4, and we have getting addition of 3 and 4 is 7. If you remember, we are getting the same output from four different types of function, user-defined function. We are getting the same output. It depends upon you how you want to make your function, how you which type you want to use inside your coding, right? But these are the types which can be used, and it all depends upon your choice. So the next example is check whether the integer entered by the user is a prime number or not. So same example, but now what we are doing, we are using a third type of user-defined function in which we are not passing any argument. We are passing argument, but we are not returning the value, right? So we have check prime, prime, and display. You can see void, no return value, and we have argument. This is the main function. Here, enter a positive integer and then call the function. And this n is passed through this line, right? And it is passed to the function where it is defined. Here, you can see we have the main code of prime function inside this function, check prime and display. If you remember in the previous, we just have made two lines that we have made the user to enter the integer and then pass the value to the function where it was called. So let us run this example. You will see we will get the same output. Enter a positive integer 7. 7 is the prime number. If you recall, we have this is the same output, right? But we have done it in a different manner. We have used no return value, but argument passed, right? The third category. Okay, now we have the same third example, which is it will identify which number is greater. You can see void, no return type, arguments are passed. So no for return type and yes for the arguments. Here is the main function, enter two numbers that you want to compare, and grade number is the function called, and we are passing two values to the function. This is the function definition. We have x and y, I is passed to x, j is passed to y, and here we have made the logic. If x is greater than y, the greater number is x, else the greater number is y. And we are not returning any value, remember, because here it is void. Both in definition and declaration, this should be, return type should be same. Okay, let us run this program. This is the same program, and you will get the same output. So enter two numbers, for example, 4 and 5, and greater number is 5. So you are getting the same output, but you are using different user type function. So coming towards the last, I think, yes, the last type is argument passed and a return value. So we are passing the arguments, and yes, we are returning value from the function. So this is the best type, as this makes the function completely independent of inputs and outputs, and only the logic is defined inside the function. So this is the preferred, you can say the preferred type, in which the function name will define, actually the task will be performed by the function, right? And you will just call the function and get the value. We will pass the arguments while calling the function. This type of user-defined function is called a fully dynamic function and is provide a maximum control to the end user. So the syntax is very clear. Integer, we have return type, and this we have arguments. We are passing arguments, and yes, we will save some value in the variable when we call the function. And this is the definition of the function. Okay, the same example, this is the multiplication, sorry for the headache. Okay, multiplication, what we are doing, we're just calling, this is the main function. We have arguments, we have return type, declaration over here, main function. In main function, we want to enter two integers, and these integers are then passed when the function is called. This is called the function where we calling the function. A and B is passed, and because it is returning a value, it is stored in this variable multi, right? And here we are printing it. The multiplication of A and B is multi and return 0. So when we calling function, the function will go to the where the function is called, defined. Here we are having two arguments a and b, and what the function is doing? It is multiplying a and b and returning the result to where the function was called, and here it is being saved. So this is the control flow. Let us run this example on the code block. You can see we have arguments, we have return type. Okay, let us run this program. Enter two integers, 3 or 4, and multiplication of 3 and 4 is 12, right? Then comes the next example, which is, I think, the prime number. Yes, the check whether the integer entered by the user is prime number. Now what we are doing, this is the program, check prime number. We are passing integer n, and this is the return type. Here is in main program, what we are doing, enter positive integer, and we are calling this program check prime number. And here we are actually maybe I made the logic of prime numbers and return 1, right? 1 if it is not a prime number, and return 0 if it is a prime number. So here we will check if the flag is 1, it will print the number is not a prime number, and else it will print that number is a prime number. So let us run this example on code block. Enter a positive integer, for example 11. Sorry. So 11 is a prime number, right? And the third program, which is greater number, we can see directly on the code block. This is a program to compare two numbers. You can see here we are using integer type, so it is returning a value, and we have arguments too. So this is the function declaration. Here we have in the main function, we said enter two numbers that you want to compare, and pass these numbers I and j to the program grade number. And in grade number, what we are doing, we are comparing two numbers and returning the result. Return y is stored in result, and then we are comparing, we are printing this result, right? So let us run this program. Compare two numbers 5 and 6, and the grade number is 6. So you can see I have used the three same examples for all the four categories of user defined functions. So now which category you want to prefer, that is totally on your choice. This is totally your choice which way you want to make your program. Either you want to use any, most probably arguments and returning a value is the most preferred approach, but again it is up to you. You can use any of the category, any of the user type function. So this is the summary. These are the syntaxes and definition and declaration of all the four types of user defined function. I hope it is clear. Thank you very much.